So let me give you the use case when address doctor are used. Sorry, address validator. So address doctor and validator are same. If I tell sometimes address doctor don't do it. Just see this validator. Because older version they used to tell address doctor. Now they have changed it to address validator. So okay. So I am telling that first is what is address validator, right? But when to use cases, AB means address validator. Let us go with the first the simple things. Okay. What is address validator? Now, address validator is nothing in a very simple term. Uh, in the source, for example, what happens address line 1, city, state, zip, and country. Okay. Okay. It will take some time to explain. Okay, so just don't think like by 10 minutes I can explain it. So just be patient a little bit. So suppose in the input I have oops, Jones. Okay, let me give some Indian names, otherwise I will take example. Suppose here address line is 150 names. 150 main street 153 India Avenue. Suppose this is Bangalore. This is empty. It is BNG. It's Suppose this is a proper zip code, okay, for example. Let me give some. Suppose this is a proper zip code. Or let me do this is India, India. Now what is happened? Suppose there are three records, okay, in the source. Name and address record. Now we can see few discrepancies, right? Suppose this defines to all the same address. Okay, these three people are living in the same complex, for example, right? So that's why the street, city, state, zip code, and country should be same everything. But one of the issue which we are seeing, first of all, standardization issue is obviously there. ST and street, which I've already explained, we can use standardizer to change this street into ST and avenue and all those stuffs, right? But another issue which we are seeing here, the bank here for the second record, the city is missing. For the third record, looks like the spelling is wrong, right? For Bangalore. For this thing, Karnataka is in abbreviated and a full name format, right? And here we can see for the first record, the zip code is missing. So here we see many kind of discrepancies apart from Standardizer, let's remove standardizer. Let us tell that even standardized is being standardized, for example. Let's consider on the validation only. Okay. Though is suppose it's being standardized, okay. Suppose I have made it into KA also, for example. All are standardized. But still I can see the value is missing or being misspelled, which standardizer is not able to use. Okay. There's an extreme climate here. Looks like. Okay. So this cannot be used. Uh, okay. Now that's where the address validation will come into place. Suppose this is my output of standardization, but obviously a standardizer cannot correct your addresses, right? Standardizer can only standardize the address into a format. Suppose the street and all those it came up, but the address are not validated, correct? So what is the issue with this data? That suppose if some e-commerce are dealing with this kind of data, I will never get the data, I mean the package, right? Because my zip code is missing, and with this missing information, they might not able to deliver the packages, and it will be an issue with the company, right? They will have a huge loss, as I was telling. That's why address validation plays a huge role, right? What it will see. So address validation uses postal address files, okay, for different countries. Let me know if anyone doesn't understand this. Okay. So what it does, address doctor uses postal address file for different countries. That what this means, postal address files are nothing. Um, these are you can tell it as a reference file. Okay, reference file means a lookup file. Uh, these postal address files, for example, for India, are nothing but uh, all those information, all those address directories, updated address directories, which have all the information like country, zip, state, city, and its address informations. Okay, so what generally happens? This data only address. Okay, so just remember address validation is nothing to do with name. So this address information will look with the postal file. Okay, so suppose this is my uh, postal address file. Okay, for India, for example, I'm talking about India for time. Now this is my address columns, which I have just told you. This is all the addresses columns. Now what will happen? It will this value will hit the postal address file, which is nothing but will be there in the IDQ server. Okay. Again, those will are separate. Obviously, all the separate um, files are just shared by Informatica either in monthly basis, quarterly basis, or yearly basis. Okay, because addresses are getting updated, right? So that needs to be updated. That needs to be placed in the server, and the Informatica services needs to be restarted. Okay, so the input columns will hit your address postal address file for India because it will first look the country. Country is India, so it will hit the India postal file. Now this India postal file, so this is very backend. Okay, it's not like we can show you because the data, the postal files which are there in the IDQ server is not in readable format. Okay, but just by experience, I am telling you that this is how it works. Okay, so obviously with the country, it will hit the country India postal file. After that, what happens? It will look for the zip code. Okay. Now, this zip code. So this postal file maintains some hierarchy, right? Like zip code, state. Okay. Now what I have? Zip code, state, city, and then address information means you can tell apartment number, then complex names, if it's India, right, then road or street names, all those stuffs information will be there. So first it will try to find that whether zip code is present or not. In the my first record zip code is not present. Then it will go to the second state. It will hit the state. It will say, okay, I see it's a Bangalore. Okay, let me correct the space. Let's not go. So suppose it hits the state. So in the state it saw, okay, Karnataka is there. Okay. So in India, Karnataka, they able to find that within India postal file, Karnataka is there, right? Then it got validated, which is fine. Then they will go to city. Then when they hit the city, they will see, okay, in India, I have a state as Karnataka. Now in the city, do I have Bangalore? They will look up with the city post within postal city one. So Karnataka is also, sorry, Bangalore is also there, right? It also got corrected. So it didn't change. Now it will see 123 Main Street. Then in the lowered hierarchy, it will see 123 Main Street is also correct. But my zip code was missing, right? Then with all this information, they will able to fetch the zip code information. Okay, for example, they will be able to fetch the zip code from the postal address file, and they are able to add information in the address validator. Now, previously your zip code were missing. Now you are able to see the zip code. Any question?
Actually, in the some of the e-commerce websites, if we see, like if we select the zip code, it will populate all the list of uh, like the list of taluks or something. So that is also some kind of like here they'll be using this one. Or
So
some
yeah, that I will go. So in address doctor also there are several types. One is batch mode is there. Okay. Then another mode is there which is called suggestion mode, which you are telling. Okay. What the suggestion mode tells,
yes.
like once you give the zip code, suppose you gave zip code these three information, it will suggest you what are the different address line will be underneath that, within that all the suggestive address lines it will give.
Okay.
So that's what I'm telling, that when you are telling a e-commerce, maybe they are not using address validation, they will be not using IDQ, but in IDQ also this suggestion mode is also there. Okay, what it does, the same thing. You give the zip code, it will suggest you the other stuffs. Okay, what are the states and all those information. You give city state zip, it will suggest you what are the other address lines will be. So you can select. Maybe you can give to data steward, and they can select a data owner, and they will select the correct address for those. Okay, so you're telling the suggestive mode. So I go there also. I'll explain that slowly. I'll go. The mode. So I'm telling the batch mode. The first the basic mode, then I will go tell you that what are the different interactive mode. Interactive mode is there in a address validator. Suggestive mode is there. Country is there. Parsing mode is there. Okay, so I'll go there. So right now what happened? Your zip code was missing. Your zip code is being validated and it's being updated now. So here you are able to validate. Similarly, next record also it will look for India, then it will obviously hit the India postal file. It will check the zip code. Okay, it hit the zip code and found that there is a zip code underneath the India, which again pertaining to Karnataka only, right? Those zip code will be pertaining to Karnataka only, right? So again it will be corrected. I mean, they will tell, okay, this is also valid, no issue with that. Next is they will see by cities not populated, right? Now within this zip code, within this state, right? Identifying that zip code, they can also come up with the city. But again, it depends. Like if one city is connected with the zip code, they can Otherwise, they will look into the address lines, and accordingly, it has the capability to update the city information. Okay, but obviously, another, if I give an example like this, suppose my address is missing, my state, suppose my this is there, but my zip code is missing. Okay, let's go to third record. Third record again, same thing. India, it will look in the zip code. Under this zip code, Karnataka state is correct. Underneath, obviously, it will look for the address line, but they will not find the city. But they will see that this address line is there. Looking into the other information, they will be able to correct your city information as Bangalore. Okay. So here you can see this validator has the capability to add missing information as well as update the wrong information also. Okay. Now the next one. Does address validator is able to correct all the different scenarios? Can they correct everything? No. The answer is no. It cannot correct everything. Okay. Now why? Suppose understand this record. India. Okay. It will look into the India postal file. Then it went to zip code. Zip code is missing. Okay. Now they went to the state. They look for state. Okay. My state Karnataka is there. Underneath, did I see BNG? Again they faulted. They couldn't see BNG. Then they again will try to look on the address line. Address line is my empty. Now by simple logic we can always tell within Karnataka there can be so many zip codes, right? My city information is also not correct and my address is also not correct. So in this case, address validator will never validate your address information. That means it has too much of incomplete information for address doctor to validate. Right? You got this one, right? Everyone, this thing.
Yes, sir.
So what is address validator? Coming to the point, address validator is nothing where it looks into the uh, postal address files. Address validator has its own. So you can start with this. Address validator is nothing but which validates or corrects the input addresses after we standardize the data. So address validator is a part of cleansing. Okay. So you can tell that after we standardize the records, maybe name and address records, the next step is to validate the address, correct the address. Because in the input, it might happen that there might be many applications where users are giving the information, right? Users are giving address information. And those can be incomplete, those can be wrong address information. So that information needs to be corrected. Otherwise, anywhere in e-commerce or in advertisement, if someone is want to give some kind of delivered advertisement, right, via leaflets, so they have to deliver via addresses, right, or any kind of feedback they want to see, so all those will not be reachable, so the organization will face huge losses. So that's why validation of addresses are important. That's where address validator comes into place. After standardization, we use address validator to validate the addresses. Which now how it works? Informatica have its own postal address files for all countries. I'll not tell all countries. For most of the countries, means if I'm not wrong, it's around 240 plus countries. Currently, they are having the postal address file, but I'll confirm. Last time I knew 220, but 10.5 I knew they have added more than 20 countries, but I'll confirm on that. But more than 200 plus they obviously have postal address files. So looking at the country data, obviously so okay, one thing, country information is very vital. If this is blank, address doctor will be unable to understand which postal file I have to hit, right, to correct the addresses. So this is very important. Okay, so looking at the country, they will hit the country specific file, postal file, and accordingly they will correct the addresses or modify the address. So it can correct the missing addresses as well as correct the existing addresses, modify the addresses, but obviously it should have at least information of the address. It should not be a totally incomplete or wrong addresses. Then it will not be able to validate. Okay, so that is the uh, uses or use case of address validator. So obviously for the e-commerce or retail business, right? Retail business, advertisement, all those this plays a huge role. Any kind of shipment, any kind of location addresses where shipments are important, location data. This plays a huge role to validate the addresses. Okay. So we told about what is address validator, use cases of address validator, how it's being used in IDQ. Okay. Now let's quickly go